chance for the Chargers, and they score!
Good morning, everybody, and happy 4th of July to all of you out there. Huge thank you to all of our past and current military members who fight every single day to allow us to be able to do something like this, sit down and talk some stuff. Breakfast with Ken and Dan here on this 4th of July. My man Ken Collins over there. How's it going this morning?
Very nice. One thing about it, it's nice to be able to get on right at 8 o'clock.
Oh, I knew that was coming. Hopefully Ben's watching this. Yeah.
I'll hope you take
even a little early too.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it should be. But I understand.
Yeah, things happen.
Oh, nice to have you here.
Yeah, this is great. Absolutely happy I had the day off and was able to come in here, start this show up.
This is your ball game.
So, what's your favorite 4th of July pastime? I know today you guys are stopping by my house. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there. I'm going to Block Island today.
Oh, really?
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
But favorite 4th of July food for you?
Which one?
Yeah.
All
of it?
Yeah, every one of them. I mean, we usually head up to your house, and I see Chef Dan there at the grill, and sweat pouring off him, and cooking up whatever you want. We were there a couple of weeks ago, and we had the famous Dan LaBelle homemade chowder and clam fritters. And I'll tell you, if he set up a stand at the end of the corner, he'd have cars all the way in the Hope Valley. Delicious. But anyhow.
Oh, don't boast him up that much. He doesn't need it. His head's already too big. But yes, my dad does a very good job on the grill. He loves doing it.
Job. Yeah.
Absolutely loves doing it.
Oh, yeah. You can tell. So that would be my thing I look forward to every year, 4th of July. And, of course, you got to stop and you got to think about, everyone that's fought for us to make it, like you just said a little while ago, for what we do, which is just play around, do a program like this, and we got to think about the people that are not that lucky to do what we do each and every day, basically. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of my favorite holidays just because of how significant it is, right? The day that, America was able to establish themselves as a, free nation. And yeah, definitely, we enjoy, all the drinks and food and all that stuff. But I think everybody still has to have the understanding of what this holiday really means. And along those lines, if you're drinking or doing anything like that, enjoy yourself, but please make sure you're safe. So many times on these days, you see people out on the road, they get into cars that they really shouldn't be, it only takes a phone call or something like that to reach out to somebody or have a designated driver is so important because you don't want to see an unfortunate accident take place that could have been prevented.
Absolutely. Have fun, be careful, and make sure everybody that gets there and has fun, the fun continues after. You don't have to go home and find out that someone in your party had a little bit more to drink and maybe got in an accident or something happened on the way home. So just make it safe and a happy 4th of July all day long. And by the way, the weather looks pretty good.
Looks beautiful right down here in downtown Westerly. Red Sox lost a tough one the other night to the Reds. They were up 3-0, I believe.
Yeah, 3-0 game. Yep. All those games run together with me. That's the day. Is that the day they played the doubleheader?
Yes.
Well, to me, that it worked out good for them in game one because Bello or whatever his name is, Bello, he started the game, but he, I watched the game. And all of a sudden, a few innings later, I don't know what an inning it was, but I look at the pitch count, and it says Bayo with 55 pitches. I said, how can he have 55 pitches? It's like the sixth inning. But he didn't start until the top of the fourth. So his pitch count went from there on. So I think it worked out good for the Red Sox because they could use him and get a complete game out of him, or pretty close. And I think he pitched till the eighth and ninth inning.
I think we're starting to see it turn a little bit more. I know we've talked about, starting pitchers going shorter in games, but at least I feel like recently I've seen pitchers, going to the seventh, eighth, even complete games a little bit more, at least in recent memory.
They should be able to.
Should be.
I mean, I know that's how they train them now. And we've talked about this on Sports Open Mic many times. That if you watch games years ago, which you guys, you young guys that don't remember some of those pitchers, they were actually, they'd actually get upset if the manager came out. And I don't care if the guy threw 120 pitches. He was ready to. He's going to pitch some more. He's not wanting to come out of that game. But it's like they got embedded in their head at that 100 mark. I don't know how they come up with 100, but once they get to 100, then they don't want to push them anymore. And that's the way they train now.
I think just the competitiveness is down. Right? Like you're going out there on the mound, like that's your game. You're not thinking about, the next start or anything like that. At least from what it sounds like, those guys in the past, like
Absolutely.
They focused on the moment. You're pitching in that game. I'm trying to help my team out the most that I can, get the victory. And I just feel like now, like, everything's too planned out. This guy can only pitch a certain amount of innings, certain amount of pitches on this day, instead of, realizing in the moment, like, hey, this guy's pitching a hell of a game.
Yeah.
And we're going to screw the plan and just get this win today.
Yeah, and it's funny because you're right. And they don't even go by what the game is either, most of the time. You might get an extra inning, the starter, if he's pitching that good. But it doesn't say, well, wait a minute. This guy's really throwing a pretty good game. Why can't we just let him go today? But then you know what happens? I think now the money pot comes in. The guy in the bullpen, the closer. How come I didn't get in that game? That's my job. That's what I get paid for.
Yep.
So it's all revolves around money when you come right down to it.
Absolutely.
And you got the setup guy. He makes, if you're a setup guy or an eighth inning guy, you make X amount of dollars. It's almost like that's what it is now. It's like Ben here. If you're in the seat over there where you are, and you get the big money.
Yeah.
Then the next guy over here, he's like the relief guy. He gets a little less money, a lot less money. But that's the way it goes in baseball. So now you got a situation where everybody's going to complain.
Yeah.
I didn't get in. I didn't get my eighth in.
It's all about egos.
Yeah. It's too bad. And then I know from watching baseball all the years that I have, I mean, it was nice to be able to see a guy go out there and say, geez, he might be able to make a full game today. I mean, it was normal that he was going to do that. Even double headers. I mean, years ago, I think if you look in the record books, you got guys that pitch double headers. So, and then now it's 5 innings and out, or 6 innings, or whatever it is. You got to get 5 innings to qualify for a win. I don't know. I think it was fun the other way.
Yeah. From the little bit that I caught when I was younger, it was definitely more fun the other way. Speaking of baseball, the Yankees just got overtaken for first place.
I know.
Toronto playing really good baseball.
Your grandmother's not too happy.
No, she's not too happy. Neither is Lou if Lou's tuning in either. I still think the Yankees are going to end up with the division. Well,
right now, they got a couple of teams in the American League that are hot. Toronto has won. I think they took 4 straight from the Yankees in this 4-game series. Yeah. And they're hot right now. And I'll tell you who's tearing up is Springer.
Yes.
I always liked that guy. He played at University of Connecticut. Just a great competitor, I thought anyhow. And he is. I mean, he played all those years for Houston. And then I said, why didn't he stay with Houston? But he's found a home in Toronto. He's 7 RBIs, I think, the other night. He's a great player. And
Big part of what Houston did before.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And you got the guy at first base where he's dangerous every time he comes up. That guy,
Man,
I
isn't
love
he
to-
fun to watch?
Oh, yeah. He's now to me, he's the guy, he's my kind of guy. He's just out there, he's having fun. And you can see he's having fun.
Yep.
And if he hits it to a double play, so be it. Nothing you can do about it. Next time he might hit the ball 400 feet. So,
Absolutely.
but they're hot right now. And so is Tampa.
Tampa is too. I think that's been the Yankees' problem this season. Against the in-division opponents, they haven't necessarily performed well.
Right.
The Red Sox swept them before. They just dropped 4 straight to the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to win the division, you gotta beat the teams in the division.
Those are the teams you got to beat. Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of teams in the American League, Detroit, 3 All-Star starters. Javier Baez in center. Green, who plays left field, starting in left field. And then Gleyber Torres, who played for the Yankees before, starting at second base, all for the American League.
I always liked Gleyber Torres. I know Lou and I used to talk about him all the time when he was with the Yankees. And I kept saying, well, for the Yankees standpoint, I hope they never trade him because he's a good player. He just needed players around him, and he didn't have them at times. But
Absolutely.
he's doing a good job.
And then Skubal, I mean, he's unbelievable. The pitcher for Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I saw his stats the other day, 17-1
Yeah.
in his last 18 home starts or something like that, with like a 1 point something ERA. I mean, the guy's unbelievable, and he's one of those like true competitors. I think he threw a complete game, a few weeks ago or maybe even a week ago. But really love the way he attacks and the way he pitches.
Yeah.
And your best players set the tone for the rest of the team as well. That's why they're sitting at the best record in the American League as well. Now, in the National League side, Dodgers are in first place. Chicago Cubs are in first place in their division. The Mets have been struggling.
Mets are in second now. I think.
Mets are in second. They're 2 games, 1.5 games back of Philly. But what do you think the problem is with them? I mean, I just don't. I feel like they haven't, gotten the timely hits that they need. I think their pitching has, taken a sideward turn a little bit. What have you gotten to watch any of their games?
No, not really. I think with the Mets, they're trying to put all the superstars together. That's what everybody does now. And I think sometimes if you don't get the right mesh, I don't care how good these guys are. Sometimes you get people playing more for themselves than they are for the team. And it's I think it's very hard to do now because you got all the big salaries and everything. And so the Mets are trying, they keep trying to add, Soto. They put Soto in there. They got Soto last year or this year. But Soto, to me, should stay with the Yankees. I mean, he had a pretty good gig going right there, with Judge and then with Stanton coming back. But those guys get greedy for the money, and it's also an ego thing, I think, with them.
Yeah.
It's got to be. A lot of things got to be ego, but I don't know what's wrong with them. They get that close, and then they just can't get over the hump.
Well, maybe it'll be a case like last year where, they had kind of the same thing. They hit a little bit of a rough patch, and then they went on to the National League Championship Series as well. Matters how you're playing at the right time. So hopefully they work through that because they have plenty of talent on their team to be able to do it.
And they got a big series coming up starting today with the Yankees.
Absolutely.
Got some weird starting times today, too, but in Major League Baseball.
We still wouldn't be able to get Lou to one of those games, you don't think? He said, I'm not going.
Well, I think if I talk to Lou, I could get him to go. Say, Lou, we got to go down to Yankee Stadium.
We should, yeah. Not for like Yankees, Mets or whatever, but we should definitely take a trip down there.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we should get a hold of. I tell you, the guy we got to get a hold of sometimes is some Saturday morning is gentleman that we had on from URI, Mr. Ranoff.
Yep.
Can't think of his first name right now. But anyhow, I'll look it up. But he's a great Mets fan, and he did some work with us on Sports Open Mic. We went to University of Rhode Island, and we gave him a great report card. So he should have a good job somewhere. But I have to get a hold of him and see if we can get him on because he's a loyal Mets fan. Maybe he could tell us what's wrong with the Mets.
Yeah, he probably would be able to. Now, this is my first time that I've gotten to sit one-on-one with my grandpa, and I know a lot of things about my grandpa that you guys do not. All of his stories, all of that stuff. So I wanted to ask him a few questions. So you not only have been legendary broadcaster in this area, right? But a lot of people probably don't know that you coached for a little bit.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Coached basketball.
Yes, at Wesley High School
with Mr. Jerry Gleason.
With Mr. Jerry Gleason. Yep.
You got a good story or two?
Well, Coach Gleason to me was one of the best coaches at Wesley ever had. Very knowledgeable. And when they asked me to take the job, I was kind of flabbergasted. I said, "Well, what do I don't know that much about basketball." I said, "I'm a baseball guy." So I met with Jerry, and Jerry said, "Look, you do your thing." And so here I am with no experience at all at coaching. I played basketball. But I'm looking through magazines to try to find out what kind of offense to run, because he just said, "You guys run your own offense," and then if I had a JV guy that was going to play with them, well, then they had to run theirs. So I just going through a magazine and found the University of Tennessee fast break offense. I figured my theory was if I can get the ball, the closer I can get the ball to the basket, the better chance I got to winning. And the guys I had on my team were, I never knew one of them. I had the unfortunate opportunity to start into the season. I think they were like 1-4 or something like that when I took over or something like that. And they didn't know me, and I certainly didn't know them, any of them. But it was fun. As far as Coach Gleason goes, he said, you run your practice the way you have to. And I thought Jerry Gleason was a great coach. He really knew basketball. I learned a lot from Jerry. And to sit on the sidelines with him during the varsity game was an honor for me because every night I sat there, I could learn a little bit more. And I was kind of on the shy side. I didn't know when I should do this or when I should do that as an assistant coach. But after we coached a couple of years, I think it was 3. After I got to the second year, then I got a little more comfortable with Coach Gleason. But he was really great. He knew the game upside and down, and he had all the respect in the league. I don't remember him having cross words with any official that ever did our games. And by the way, we had some pretty good officials in those days too. But yeah, it was fun. We practiced in the old gym. I don't think you've ever seen that.
No.
At Westerly. It's now like a fitness center, or it was. But that was a place that was, I think maybe similar to some of the places that you guys probably play in now. I'm trying to think. Maybe North Providence. Is that a small down?
Oh, that's like Shea.
Yeah. Well,
Shea and Tolman, those are definitely small gyms.
Yeah, and it's like Wesley gets a seat, you go down.
Yep.
And I mean, we used to practice in there, and it was like 105 degrees every night because we couldn't turn the heat down. It just could continuously run. But anyhow, that's where we used to practice. And then, of course, we'd be together at the games. But I can't say enough about Coach Gleason. And I know that 45th thing they had for me.
Yep.
It was Jerry that brought up the fact that let's not forget that Ken not only did all these broadcasts, but he coached. And I really enjoyed coaching with Gleason. He's a great guy. And you got another Gleason up at Charahoe right now that does a good job too.
Yes, son Mike Gleason
Yeah.
just took over as the Charahoe boys varsity head coach.
I know that was a
Congratulations,
long
son.
answer, but
Yeah, that was a long answer, but that's okay. What was the biggest thing, like, both maybe coaching wise, but more importantly, like off the court, were, two things that Mr. Gleason taught you? Both one thing on the court, coaching wise, and then one thing, off the court that you took for the rest of your life that you implemented.
well, coaching on the court, a gentleman, absolute perfect gentleman. I think I mentioned earlier, there wasn't one referee he didn't know. There wasn't one referee that would, have it out for him. He was just a gentleman. Showed me, because I could get a little bit upset at times with some of the officials, but by being with him for a couple of years, and also, by the way, Lou was with me in that time period too. But that's what I've learned from just to try to be a little more cool and not get too excited, because if you do, then to me it runs over to the players too. The players will say the same thing. They'll try to do the same thing after a while, and then that's not good. Then it can get out of hand.
Well, yeah, you as the head coach, right, or whatever acting coach who's up on the sideline, like, you set the example for the rest of the team. If you're out of control and stuff like that, then the rest of your team's going to be, right? But if you're able to stay cool, calm, collective, and just have conversations with referees, or just tell your players, screw it, like, you gotta move on, because we got to move on to the next play, the next possession, whether we're winning or losing, to either hold the lead or be able to come back in the game as well.
Right.
Now, Coach Mike Gleason, like I said, just took over the Charahoe varsity boys head coaching job. I had the pleasure of playing against him. Well, maybe not the pleasure sometimes, because we never beat him, but heck of a coach. And I've gotten to work with him because he was the middle school girls coach last year at Charahoe as well. Been a pleasure to work with him. He was really active in the Charahoe Youth Basketball Association with the boys and the girls side, still is. But you have gotten to, watch him coach and play. You watched him play as well, because he played with Gary, right?
Yeah.
Just talk about the type of coach that, he is, at least from, a broadcaster's view of, watching his games.
Mike, we're talking about, Mike, I told Mike when he was at that thing, and he said, I said, Mike, I can't remember you getting a technical foul. I mean, and I've done a lot of games. Matter of fact, I probably have done all of his games that were done on ERI. I mean, BLQ, because ERI wasn't coaching then. But I don't recall him getting a technical foul. You see Mike get frustrated at times, but I never seen a coach that would really keep himself under control as much as Mike Gleason. I asked him that once, and he said, Ken, I can't remember either. So you'd remember if you got a technical foul, but just a perfect gentleman. Same thing, just like his father. Even Jerry. Jerry may have gotten one along the line, but they're like carbon copies of one another.
And watching his teams, you could probably really tell that he focuses on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Right. You could always, count on that man-to-man press being up all in your face. Sometimes it was his own press as well. And I see why he is so big on defense, because I saw him at a summer league practice that the boys were having, because we had practice before. They were coming in right after. And immediately they were doing a drill where they were working on catching, ripping, and going right to the basket. They were working on different jabs, different moves. And he was all up there playing defense, getting into them, stripping it from the guys. He still got it.
Mm.
He's still got the hands. Was he a good defender growing up?
Yeah. And those two guys you're talking about, you can't say enough good things about them. I mean, they were tough on the court. And their game plan was good, and they're into the game, the whole game. They don't take any minutes off, and then you see them afterwards, and they're just regular guys. But they two great coaches.
Now, something else I wanted to talk to you about. I know you've told me this story, but rest in peace to Pete Rose. But you were able to meet Pete Rose one time, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about how that happened.
Well, I was in good old Las Vegas. I was at the MGM Grand, actually. I was sitting near the race book. Your grandmother was with me. We were sitting at the table, and I look over and I see this guy sitting at the table, and every once in a while, another guy would come up and sit with him for a few minutes. Next thing he'd go, he was in the race book. I said to your grandmother, he said, that looks like Pete Rose. I said, could that possibly be Pete Rose? She says, how do I know? So I said, the other guy was coming up, and I see Pete give him some money. So he was going up to bet for him, evidently. I said, I want to walk over there and find out. So I just walked over to the table. I said, excuse me. I said, are you Pete Rose? I am, he says. And you are? So I introduced myself. Sit down. I sat at the table with him for a couple of races, just talking about baseball, talking about picking the horses. He says, this is not an easy game, is it? I said, no, it isn't, Pete. And just a nice guy. So all I had a business card with me, and I asked him to sign it for me, and he signed it, and I still have it at home somewhere. But just a nice guy, just talking like I'm talking to you right now. Some of those guys, when you meet them, well, first of all, before you meet him, you say, well, yeah, I don't know if I should ever go up and try to talk to that guy. But they're just regular people.
Perfect example was the guy we had on the other day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris
just
Berman.
like him.
When you took me to go meet him, we even talked about this after, you could tell, I was a little nervous just because that's a guy that I've listened to growing up. He was one of, if not the voices of ESPN growing up.
Sure.
So many classic calls of the home run derby and, of course, all the football stuff, right? He could go all the way, I still have, you remember when you brought us to the Travelers Championship?
Yeah.
I still have that little piece of paper that he wrote us all each one piece of paper, and mine said, Dan, you could go all the way. I still have that sitting right on my table.
Really?
Right at home. Yep. Along with that nice canvas picture as well, hanging up in my room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have that. And yeah, he's just a normal guy,
Well, You know Don right well that if you do go all the way in this kind of he's going to remind you of it if he's around.
Yeah, he definitely will remind me of it. And hopefully that happens one day. Absolutely. Good opportunity for us to take a break. We'll take our first break here. This is Breakfast with Ken and Dan here on the 4th of July. We'll be right back after a few short messages from our great sponsors.
Game in a fun and meaningful way? Kiefer's Martial Arts on Granite Street has everything you're looking for. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and of course, adult karate. It's not just about getting fit, it's about building your self-confidence, discipline, and that unstoppable feeling you get from all your hard work. Stop into Kiefer's Martial Arts today to sign up.
Are you looking for a fresh cut in Westerly? Step into Rio's Barber Shop in Granite Plaza. Whether it's a classic trim or a trendy new look, we've got you covered. Experience the perfect cut for every age and style in a friendly and relaxed atmosphere. At Rio's, it's not just a haircut, it's an experience. Visit Rio's Barber Shop in the Granite Plaza in Westerly or give us a call to schedule your appointment at 401-315-2208. Your style, our craft, Rio's Barber Shop.
At Dime Bank, we're all about community. It's who we are. Local communities made up of customers, families, and friends. Business owners invested in helping their communities thrive. Dedicated employees committed to giving back in ways that go beyond banking. If your banking relationship leaves you wanting more, come join our community. It's your bank, your choice, your dime.
Hi, I'm AJ Trust.
And I'm Jeff Swiderski with AnnieMac Home Mortgage's Momentum Group, your trusted partner in the home buying process.
At AnnieMac, we can strengthen your offer with our innovative program, Cash to Keys, giving you a competitive edge by allowing you to make a cash offer on your new home.
Together, we've helped over 1,000 families move into their dream homes, and we'd love to do the same for you.
Give us a call today at 401-486-0853 to get started.
Wood River House is my home for house. Wood River Health is a one-stop shop for primary medical care, dental care, behavioral health, and social services. We care for the members of our community because they are our community. I'm Allison Croak, President and CEO of Wood River Health. Since 1976, our health center has provided high-quality, affordable health care to residents of Rhode Island and southeastern Connecticut. We are your neighborhood health center. Let us be your home for health.
I am Jim Howe. My practice is focused on representing people injured in car accidents, representing people injured in premises liability, represent people in all walks of life. I say all the time that I represent the underdog, and by the underdog I mean the person who is injured and is facing lawyers that are hired by insurance companies. If you unfortunately find yourself injured in an automobile collision or in any other circumstance where insurance may come into play, think of giving me a call.
Hi, I'm Neil Anthus, owner of Sound Financial Partners. We're a full-service financial planning practice dedicated to optimizing your investment, tax, and cash flow strategies. As fiduciaries, we always keep our advisory clients' best interests in mind when making recommendations. Whether you're preparing for retirement or growing your business, we're here to help you achieve your financial goals. Ready to start your journey to financial success? Visit us at our Wesley office or give us a call at 401-642-4333.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Breakfast with Ken and Dan here on this 4th of July. Once again, we want to thank all of our past and active military members for all that they do so we can be able to sit down and, have a few conversations like we are right now in the morning. So we really appreciate. Don't forget what this holiday means. I know we mentioned it earlier, but, sometimes people forget just because it's an excuse to have a good time, right? But really remember, why we're able to do that as well. I know Ben's not going to like me for this, but we're going to talk about your softball career. We're going to do it. We're going to do it because I just think you mentioned it the other day. Like, I just think it is so impressive that, you're one of 3 people, right, from Rhode Island to ever play in that softball league. Do you know its origins? Do you know how it started originally?
No, I don't. It's all I know is how I got started here was that one morning I went to work at ERI, and first of all, Carl Grand was the owner, him and the Ursos, and he was the general manager of the station. Loved softball. That's how I got my job there, really, is playing softball. And then I played softball before I was working. Then I finally got me the job. So anyhow, I'm in the sales department. So one day I go in and I get the Providence Journal-Dan. There was an ad about this big. It said, "Own your own professional softball team." Well, I played for him, and we played in the Westerly League. And he used to treat that just like professional. I used to say, "Wait a minute, I work for you, but I'm just playing softball for fun." Not him. He had the stats. He was great on base percentage. I had the highest on base percentage, and I wasn't the best player on the team, but I had the highest. Okay, good. So I clip it out of the paper and I put it on his desk. So 2 or 3 days later, I was coming in at about 5 o'clock, and he says, "Ken, you got a couple of minutes?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Sit down." He says, "Remember that piece of paper you left on my desk?" I forgot all about it. I did it as a joke. I said, "Yeah." The softball one? He said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, I got it." I said, "You got what?" He says, "I got the franchise for New England." We actually went from the New York border. We had part of New York and all the way up to Vermont, Maine, wherever. That means, he says, I can get players from any of those areas. So he said, "We're going to do it." He says, "I want you to come with me." I said, "Carl, I haven't played, just a little softball in the twilight, the softball league, but I hadn't played in about a year. And he said, that's all right. Don't worry about it. I'm going to just put you on the roster. So I said, okay. So I went home and discussed it with your grandmother. And I asked them all about the league. And, well, for those that don't know, the league was set up just like Major League Baseball. You had, we had teams from all over. We had to fly to Chicago and Milwaukee, Rochester, Philadelphia. It was some Cincinnati, Cleveland, Kentucky. We played all over the place. And you played home, but our home field was in New Haven. So I had to go down to New Haven at least twice a week to try to put the team together. So to me, the first year of the New England Pilgrims was the best year. We had some really good players. You know, we had a shortstop that was out of this world. We had a catcher who, by the way, passed away not too long ago, Ralph Calitri. He was a teacher from Massachusetts. And speaking of Ralph, by the way, I had this in my mind a few months ago about getting some of these guys on. Lo and behold, I found Ralph.
Did you?
He was in Florida. So I call him and I said, is this Ralph Calitri, the famous catcher for the New England Pilgrims? Ken, how are you? I knew Ralph more than some of the other guys because he used to travel with me because he lived in Boston. So he'd come to Westerly and we'd drive to New Haven together. He says, why don't you guys come down? You know, he says, I'll take care of everything. He said, just let me know. I'd love to see you because you're living in Florida then. So I said, yeah, well, maybe we'll take it up. So then I said, you know what? I told your grandmother, I said, I'm going to get a hold of Ralph and see if we can put him on the radio at the time, BOQ. So I called the number and the woman answered. And I said, is Ralph there? And she says, who's calling? I said, Ken Collins. I said, I played with Ralph in the New England Pilgrims, the softball, when we played in the softball league. She says, Ralph passed away. She said, last week. I said, you got to be kidding me. She said, no, he passed away about a week ago. Yeah. So I just missed him. But I did get a chance to talk to Ralph. And what a great guy. He was such a gentleman. He was a school teacher, too, by the way, in Massachusetts. And he was just telling me the conversation I had with him couple of weeks before that his son is a bench coach for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yep.
And he sent me videos of him when they sang happy birthday to Ralph. Matter of fact, Ralph's birthday was right around the same time he died, I think right afterwards. So, but he was a great guy, and we just had a lot of good guys on that team.
What was your favorite moment through playing in the league?
Oh, my favorite moment.
I think I know what you're going to say, but.
Well, my favorite moment was we were in New Haven. I got a couple of favorites, but this is, I have to say this one because I ended up getting a broken elbow out of it. But Carl came to me about we needed one more win to win our division. We had a doubleheader. Well, the first game we're getting beat pretty bad. So Carl comes over to me about the third inning and he says, I want you to go in the game. Now, I hadn't played all year. I says, Carl, I can't go in the game. I want you to do this for me. I said, where am I going to play? You know, I hadn't played in the field or anywhere.
Yep.
I'll put you in the catcher. I said, we're going to take Ralph out. He's the best player. He says, I got to do something. Carl had a sixth sense.
Yep.
He really did. So next inning, same thing. Next inning, same thing. So I said, all right, look, let Ralph bat, and I'll go in and catch the last inning. That way I don't have to go bat. And by the way, we had just gotten new shoes, cleats from, I forgot what company it is. And every time when I played, if I had new spikes, I'd wear them at practice, but I wouldn't wear them in a game because they were different, because the spikes were longer. And that used to be in my head, so I wouldn't use them right away. So I got them on, naturally. I put them on that night. So we're coming up at the 7th inning, and we start scoring some runs. And I'm saying,
you're like, oh, boy.
don't let this happen to me. So I got a bat. So I go up the bat, and I looked out, and we had the shortstop, no short fielder. We had 4 outfielders. Yep. So I'm looking, and I'm saying, this looks like Broadway. The middle of this field is wide open. I said, well, he throws the first pitch to me. That's any good. I'm going to just hit it right back at him.
Right there, yep.
So I did. I hit it to left center. It rolls all the way to the fence. I now have to run. I get to second. So now I'm at second base. And for whatever reason, I would have given one of the players hell if I was on the other end.
Yep.
Because if ground ball to shortstop, I don't go to third base. But I did. And now I got to slide. So I don't want to slide feet first because I'm afraid that the spikes get caught and I might have an ankle issue. So I head first. I never do that. And I jam my right hand into the base. So we have a trainer from Yale football team. His name was Joe. I said, Joe, my wrist hurts. So trying to make a long story short here. After we lost the game. So now we got to win the second game. Carl said, you got to play the second game. I said, first of all, you can't take Ralph out. Secondly, my wrist is hurting. You'll be fine. So Joe, the trainer, looks at it, tapes it up, and I go play the second game. Well, that's why I said it's a famous moment, because I got 2 hits. I ended up getting up 5 times. I got 3 hits in the 2 games. So my name's in the record book as 5 into words at 600.
600 hitter.
600 hitter in the American Professional Softball League. And we won the game, and we went to the playoffs in Detroit. The bad news is when I got back, I went to the hospital for an x-ray. I had a broken bone in my elbow. But I did make it out to Detroit for the playoffs, and Cincinnati beat us 2 out of 3 in the playoffs. But we played well. We had a great team, and it was a great league. You would have loved it. It was like we were like. I know how the major leaguers are now, and I know they make a lot of money.
That's the next question I was going to ask you, actually. Yeah, so go right ahead. But first, we had a comment. Calvin Hill Jr., smooth water. Smooth water. Shout out, Calvin. Good morning and happy 4th of July.
All right. So.
But yeah, talk about, just how difficult it was, right? The schedule, having to travel from city to city all the time. Probably not as easy as what people, seem.
I have a feeling now for Major League Baseball players. We played weekends. So my schedule would be, if we were home, we were in New Haven. So I would leave and get to New Haven. Our games were in the evening. So I would leave to be in New Haven at 5. Game starts at 7, doubleheader. So I'd leave about 4 o'clock, 3:45, get down there. We'd play 2 games, come back home, go back the next day, play 2 more games. Now we're on the road. We still drive to New Haven. Then we got 3 or 4 cars, drive to New York. So we used to fly out of LaGuardia or Kennedy. And we'd fly to like Rochester, which one of the shorter flights, Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, we played at the old stadium where the Philadelphia Phillies played.
Yep.
And they had the old, they call it AstroTurf then. Then I could take a softball and bounce it and it come right back up to me.
Yeah.
A softball. So that was hard. And I asked one of the guys, I said, what is it? And it's just asphalt. It was just a carpet on top of it. So we played there. We played in Detroit. In Detroit, every time we went to Detroit, they had 7,000 or 8,000 people at the games. Yeah. It was big in Detroit. They had Norm Cash, who played for the Tigers, Jim Northrup, who played for the Tigers. And then the New Jersey team had Joe Pepitone, who I became really good friends with. I could say a lot of stories about Pepitone.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories. That's for another time. But yeah, he's got plenty of stories about Joe Pepitone.
But he turned out to be a great guy. He really was. And so anyhow, we won our first year we're in the league. We won it, and we got beat by Cincinnati in the playoffs. And then the second year, Carl went out and tried to improve the team. To me, I told him, I said, I don't really think you should touch this team. I mean, the guys were together. You talk about guys getting along. These guys were great. I mean, they really were. We had Doug Fortune, who played first base, come from New Haven. Gary Bella, who played Providence College basketball and baseball. Don Ragazine, best shortstop I think I've ever seen. We had a guy that was a little bit older, Eddie Finnegan, played third base. And we had Paulson in left field, who could throw a ball right through that wall. Dickie James, who ran kickoffs back for the Giants, played right center. And Frank Camilleri, who was a sporting goods store owner in New York. Him and Sam, the pitcher, Sammy Sapienza, were buddies. Well, Sam couldn't break a plane of glass with a ball. His arm was gone. So we used to have some fun because I used to have to hit the infield before the game. So when I hit one to Paulson, I made sure I drilled it pretty good. And Pat could throw it right through a wall. He could throw it from the fence to home plate.
Yep.
Well, when Ralph's turn, I make believe I didn't hit it well, and it rolled out into right field where Frankie was probably 10 feet from second base to show off he didn't have it out. I'm sure we didn't fool anybody, but that was a team. Oh, and Billy Fatico in the left fielder, who was in banking in New Haven. That was basically our team, and Ralph.
Yeah, see, I wanted to talk about this today because you guys know Ken as obviously a legendary broadcaster here for Westerly mostly, but done a lot of Charahoe, Stonington, plenty of other things throughout his life. But you don't realize that he was a heck of an athlete himself as well. So wanted to give you credit for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was so happy that I, as I'm sure you and everybody else that's played some kind of baseball had a dream,
of course,
that says, boy, I'd love to play Major League Baseball.
And you pretty much got to experience something like it.
I was that close that our road trips, like if we were to fly to Chicago, we would get to Chicago about 4:00, go to the hotel, check in, go to the field by 5, have infield, outfield, batting practice, play 2 games, go back to the hotel, grab something to eat, get up in the morning. We always had brunch, back to the field. Sometimes we played in the afternoon. Sometimes we played at night. Play the 2 games, get on the plane, fly back home. We get home sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And we did this the whole summer. And, and even when we were home, most of us had to travel to at least New Haven. But I had a feeling then that, I said, these baseball players do this every day for 162 games.
We also got another comment from Calvin. Shout out to Miss Hazel. That leads me right into the next question to go along with this. Now, you were on the road a lot, right? Away from home. How big was her support during that time.
I would not have done it if she didn't agree. That was my first thing, is I'm going to ask her. And I told her the story. I said, when we were away, we were only away for one night. I mean, we'd go Saturday, at 10 o'clock, fly out of New York, go play the 2 games, stay overnight, play Sunday, and come right home. So we basically stayed just one night wherever we went, which wasn't too bad. And of course, if we were home, we just drive to New Haven and come back home that night. But I said, I won't do this unless, you agree. And she knew. I mean, she knew. She watched me play ball. So this was an opportunity that wasn't going to come. No one was going to knock on my door and ask me to go play for the Red Sox.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, this is just like the way it was explained. This is just like playing Major League Baseball. It was a professional softball league. We got paid.
Yep.
I mean, I got $2,500 just for playing ball in the summertime, and all my expenses paid.
It's better than that.
We flew here. Oh, it didn't cost me nothing. Matter of fact, on the road, we used to get meal money. So we had a couple of meals. We got paid. We got paid for that, and we had some trying times with connections here, there, and every day. I could talk probably 2 hours for the softball league, but
yeah. I just wanted to ask you about that, because I think people see professional athletes and like their spouses and just assume like everything's all good, right? That it's easy for them because they have a lot of money, but they don't realize the amount of time that they're staying away from their family, right? That can put a huge stress on any relationship, no matter how much money you make, especially if you have kids, right? You want to try to be there as much as you can for them. If your partner isn't willing to be all in and, be the caregiver for your kids, right? Then the relationship's unfortunately just not going to work.
And after doing it, and we played like, I don't know, 60 some games or whatever it was. And after doing it, it became a job. Like I became a robot.
Yeah, because you were doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, I'd get to the field. I'd say, okay, guys, we're going to do batting practice. I'd hit the infield, outfield. I'd coach first. I'd coach third. Get in the car, drive home. Next day, I do the same thing.
Yep.
Or if we're on the road, we do the same thing. So it became a job.
And you were just playing weekends, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine these MLB players and just all these professional athletes, especially MLB players, because, they play pretty much every day, if not every other day.
Yeah.
And when you're not playing, you're traveling the whole entire season.
That's what I said to myself. I said, I really feel now when people say, geez, these guys make a lot of money. They do. But let me tell you something. It's a grind. I don't care. I don't care if they're making $500,000 a year or $5 million a year. They have to do the same thing. And it's tough. It's not an easy thing. I can't imagine me leaving my house on a Sunday and maybe not coming back until the following Wednesday, a week after, being on the road 7 or 8 days. That's even worse. At least I know I'm coming home the next night.
Exactly. Yeah. And just especially the really high level, baseball players in particular, like Judge, like Ohtani, like Betts, all those guys, right? It makes it that much more impressive that they're able to go out there and perform every single night while still having to deal with all of that stuff. And I think, people don't realize that's why they get paid the big bucks.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can do it. There are very, very, very few people on planet Earth that have gotten and, are still being able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
All for everybody's entertainment.
Well, I'm glad you talked about. And by the way, I had no idea what we were going to talk about this morning. I never do anyhow.
Oh yeah, I thought about it in the car.
But I wanted people to know around here that, and it's not only me. I was lucky that I got into a game and you got the feel of playing in a game. We had 2 other guys that played, Kenny Bushy, who actually lives in Hope Valley.
Yep.
And Carl asked me about him because he knows I played with him. And in that league, by the way, if you weren't a power hitter, you better be a good defensive player. We had a great defensive team. We didn't have a lot of home run hitters. Ralph was probably our home run hitter. Some of those guys, they had some people that could hit a ball a long way.
Just like every time, probably.
Oh,
right.
Some of them were really good, and to see and to be able to be a part of that, if you look it up on the computer, it'll come up. New England Professional Softball League, and it lasted a few years. Oh, I did it for 3 years, and I never thought I would ever say this. After 3 years, I said to Carl Grant, I said, Carl, I can't do this anymore. He says, what? I said, I can't do this anymore. He says, why? I said, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm like a robot.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm programmed to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, because you're not doing anything different. You have to go to the games. You got to go to the practices. You have to follow the same routine. And that can be a difficult thing. You don't have extra time to like just go out and do something for the day sometimes, right?
No.
Like all those weekends, you have to be there.
Yeah, you basically, you get up, we used to have a brunch. If we were playing in the afternoon, we'd eat somewhere around 10, 11 o'clock, go to the field, 2 o'clock, play 2 games and fly home. That was it. And if we were playing night games, even worse, because then we wouldn't get home until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of these guys, well, not a lot of them, all of them worked.
Yeah, of course. They need another job, right? So that time was during the week, and then you have to go right to the weekend to do that cycle all over again every single weekend.
And one thing I'm very proud of is the fact that after the 3rd year, I told him, 2nd year, I said, Carl, I can't do this anymore. So halfway through the season, I get a call from Carl, and he says, can you and Hazel come down for breakfast some morning, like Sunday? I said, yeah, I guess we could. So we go down to his house. They cook breakfast for me and your grandmother. And he says to me, I got to ask you a big favor. I said, what's that, Carl? He said, you got to come back. Come back where? With the team. I said, no, I'm not coming back. He says, you got to do this for me. Not only that, he says, if you don't do this, I'm in trouble. I said, what do you mean you're in trouble? All those guys are on me. They want you back. Yep. They want you back. And he says, yep, they want you back, and they insist that you coach third base. He says, because Carl sometimes don't know when to send.
When to send, when to not, right? Yeah.
I started laughing.
Got a few people thrown out.
And he said to me, there's all your stuff right there. Just take it, please. I don't know. I think they were halfway through the season, maybe. A little more. So I said, well, I'll let you know. But he had all my uniforms and bag and everything else, jacket.
Yep.
So I went back and I coached third base. They were glad to see me anyhow.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
They got to be really good friends.
That's awesome. Just got a text from Coach Russ. Love listening to you and your grandfather. That's awesome. Shout out Coach Russ for tuning in. Appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. I got one more question for you today. Man, it's already 8:58.
Wow.
Flying by today. But what has been the biggest challenge you would say you've faced in your life? I know there's definitely probably a lot that you faced, right? But what if you had to narrow it down to maybe one like biggest challenge that you faced in your life? What would it be?
My biggest challenge? Well, I think my biggest challenge would probably be the cancer.
Yeah.
When I had a lower plate in my mouth, was having trouble with it. And they finally sent me to an orthodontist, and he took the thing out of my mouth and basically threw it away. Scraped all my gums, which is not a very good thing. And waited a while. I will go back to my regular dentist. Got started making a new plate for my bottom teeth. Plate was just about finished, and when I go for the final fitting, the dentist asked me if I've noticed any buildup. I said, "You guys look at my mouth every week. I don't know what to look for." Well, we're going to send you back to the orthodontist. So we go back to the orthodontist, and he looks at my mouth. He goes over, and I'll never forget it. Sits in a chair, and he says, "Geez," he says, "that should not have come back." I says, "What? All that buildup come back? Shouldn't. I got to scrape your gums again." So I go through that again. And he says, "I'm going to send you to see another doctor in town." I said, "Okay." So I go home. It was on a Saturday, and I go home, and your grandmother said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Sit down." And I said to her, I said, "I have cancer." She says, "What?" I said, "I have cancer in my mouth." She says, "What makes you think that?" I said, "Well, basically that dentist, when he said that shouldn't have come back, which means I don't know what happened to the biopsy, but maybe we didn't do one or they didn't do it." So I go back. I go to the dentist in Westerly, and he's telling me that it's no big deal. I'm going to cut it out. I said, "Who's going to cut it out?" He said, "Well, me or my partner can do that, the cancer part out." And he says, "I want you to see this Dr. Evans in New Haven because you're going to have to do radiation afterward." So they make the appointment, and I go see Dr. Evans in New Haven, in New London, next Tuesday. So she's talking to me about it, and she's saying she come over, and your mother, everybody was there. Yeah. And she said to me, put her hand on my leg, and she says, "Ken, you do have cancer, and it's stage 4. And she says, "I've got a hold of Dr. Judson, who I would like him to do the surgery on you, because you got to have surgery." I had to have an orthodontist cut out, and also went into my throat because I had one lymph node had cancer in it. Well, you talk about getting hit with a hammer.
Oh, yeah. How was that? Like hearing that? I mean,
I actually started. I had tears in my eyes, and when she said to me, "But I don't want you to worry," she said, "because I'm going to take care of you." So I said, "Well, the doctor in Westerly was on the back burner now." She said, "You can get a second opinion, do whatever you want to do, but I wouldn't wait." I said, "For what you just told me," I said, "just you do it. Do whatever you got to do." So she got this Dr. Judson who did the surgery on my throat, actually cut my throat from one side to the other, took out 30, 40 lymph nodes in my throat. I don't know how many I have in there, and he found the one that had the cancer. And then I had to go do the radiation with Dr. Evans for 6 weeks.
Yep.
And report it was about 7.5 hours of surgery. And he did get the lymph node that had the cancer in it. So,
yeah, grateful for all of those doctors working so hard to be able to get to a spot where you're happy, healthy, still living, and everybody still gets to enjoy, listening to Ken Collins at least once every week, sometimes more, right?
well, what was funny too is Dr. Judson, before he did the surgery, he says, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Whatever." I got some doctors that we always have a meeting when we have surgeries coming up as to what we're doing or who we're doing it on and what type of surgery. Would you mind coming in there with me? I said, I don't care. I thought there was a couple of guys in the room. I go in, about 30 doctors in there. So this is Mr. Kenneth Collins. This is what he does for a living. And this is what we have to do in all the terminology of the doctor talk. And he says, Ken, tell my friends what you want to do after this is all over. And I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I just said, I just want to do what I do. I said, I want to go back and do broadcast football and basketball games. They all give me a little clap, standing ovation. Yep. And the rest is history. I got the surgery done.
And really grateful for that, because not only got to call a lot of great games for me growing up playing, but I've also gotten to call a lot of great games with me coaching now as well, including the Westerly Community Credit Union Holiday Tournament Basketball Championship, which that was really special night. And you thought that was going to be the last one too, but you still ended up doing it the next year. And we'll see what this year holds. We should sponsor Run to Home Base.
Okay, but before we finish up my biggest moment, let me tell everyone that I had a big decision to make from the radiation and from chemotherapy. And I got a call from a doctor in New London that said, I have to know by this Friday whether you want the chemo with the radiation. And I'm asking everybody in the family whether I should do this. It was my decision. The Cisplatin was the name of the.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Chemo. So I'm asking everybody, and one night we go up to my daughter Jen's house, Dan's mother, and we're sitting there, and I'm trying to get everybody's feeling as to what I should do, whether I should do it or not to do it. And I have to let the guy know by that Friday. I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday night, but it doesn't matter. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching this guy, Dan, sitting on the couch at 12 years old. This was 2012.
2012, yep.
And for some reason, I just looked over at him and I said, Dan, he says, yeah, Grandpa, what? I said, what should I do? Should I do this chemo or what? And without hesitation, he said to me, no, don't do the chemo. I said, what? He said, don't do that chemo, Grandpa. He says, because it's going to make you sick. Really sick. I said, oh, okay. So then Dan, he had left the room. So I said to Jen, I said, where'd that come from? I said, I didn't. She said, Dad, he's been on the computer checking out that Cisplatin or whatever the name of it is. And he's been looking what it does, the side effects and all this. He's been doing that ever since he found out. I said, well, you know what? That's good enough for me. So I called the doctor the next morning. And
Put his trust in a 12-year-old.
I said, Doc, I'm not going to do the Cisplatin. I'm just going to do the radiation. And when I told my doctor, the surgeon, Judson, I said, I'm not going to do and I said, the chemo, I'm just going to do the radiation. Well, that's all right. That's good. You got to do the radiation.
Yeah.
that's what's going to take care of your problem. So
Yeah,
that's
going to be my
story.
first and last time doing something like that. I should have been a doctor, I guess, right? I think I'll go out on top on that one. But yeah, I just, he's one of my biggest role models in my life, and just really cared about him. I wanted to make sure to try to do as much research as I could. Even though I was only 12 at that time, I still had resources, right? I still had a computer. I still could, try to look some things up that I was learning in school on like how to research and like what right things to look on and stuff like that. And fortunately, everything worked out, really, really good, because we're sitting here today making history again. This is our first solo show together today.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
very fortunate to be able to do that. Now, we should mention home base, run to home base as well.
Well, run the home base. Gary has done it for. Here you go. Ben says I don't read the promo.
No, he's just messing with you.
So
All right.
Gary, I think, has been doing this for about 7 years. I saw Gary yesterday, and said I think he's a little bit short of what he did last year, and we're trying to get it so you always want to do $1 more,
Of course.
than you did last year. So we're gonna put a push on here in the last couple of weeks to try to get him over the top, which I think is $2,000. So I think he's probably right around 1,700 now, somewhere in that neighborhood. So run to home base coming up.
Yeah, the donation deadline is July 13th. The actual event itself is on Saturday, July 26th. Hopefully we'll be up there doing sports open mic from Fenway Park. That would be great. But yes, donation deadline July 13th. All you have to do, go to www.runtohomebase.org, click donate, and then you're going to participant name. You're going to type in Gary Collins. It'll bring you right to his page, and then you can donate right there, whatever amount it is. If it's $1, if it's $10, whatever, it all helps. And especially on a day like this, I love highlighting things like this because it's in support of veterans and their military families that do so much to help keep our country safe.
And like I said, Dan, I think it's 6 or 7 years for Gary. And I know he's really proud of doing it. And I'm proud of 1 year when the COVID, they had to do it virtually.
Yep.
And I said, where are you going to do it? Well, he said, I'll run around North Stonington. I said, well, it's run to home base. So why don't you finish up at the softball field or the baseball field at Wheeler? So I was pretty happy that I was the only one. I was there to greet him at home plate after he made his run. I didn't run with him. I said, I'll meet you.
You didn't want to embarrass him, right? You didn't want to embarrass him.
So he's done a good job on it. I know Ben's going to make, he's already made a call. I think he's got to go to call Monday and try to set wherever we're going to be at Fenway. And I've always wanted to go up, and it's always been on a Saturday, and I've had the opportunity. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully we can all go up.
Yeah, I am too. Again, it's for a great cause. www.runtohomebase.org. Click donate. Type in Gary Collins' name, and then it'll bring you right to the page where you can donate. Again, donation deadline is July 13th for that. And we went a little bit over, but that's okay. I think Ben will survive.
I think you did great.
Well,
I didn't know I was going to be on the hot seat.
Just like Ryan Dennecourt was yesterday with me for my very first episode of the Hot Seat. You can catch that right on Facebook and YouTube. LSU women's soccer player. That was a great sit down that I got to have with her yesterday. She was very well spoken.
She did very good job.
Man,
both of you did.
Thank you.
And we did watch it. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, she's going to do great things over there at LSU, and not only just in soccer, but for the rest of her life as well. So that's been Breakfast with Ken and Dan this morning. I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. Again, have fun, but stay safe, make good decisions, and enjoy the day with your family and loved ones. Enjoy the rest of your weekend as well. We will be back tomorrow morning for a sports open mic at Revive Coffee. We're going to see Coach Brent Fazzaro over there, the rest of the gang. Really looking forward to that. So, again, everybody have a great day. Thanks for listening, and stay safe.
D&V Mechanical specializes in the installation, maintenance, and servicing of Mitsubishi ductless mini-split heat pump systems. We are certified by Mitsubishi as Diamond Elite Contractors and factory trained and up to date on the proper procedure of the installation and service of Mitsubishi ductless heating and air conditioning ductless heat pumps. We assist with the paperwork to reduce much of the stress-related documentation required to get the state rebates and federal tax incentives. We are not a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-nothing company. We are masters of ductless heat pumps. It's what we do, and it's what we know.
What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick down here at the Wireless Zone at Dunn's Corners at 224 Post Road, and everybody down here is getting the brand new iPhone 16. We have it here in stock. The best part is right now, if you trade in your old phone, you get it for free. We got deals all weekend, awesome savings. Come on down and see us, 224 Post Road, Dunn's Corners, Verizon Wireless Zone. We'll see you soon.
Hi, this is Dan from Lathrop Insurance. In this challenging insurance environment, Lathrop Insurance can be your beacon in the storm to help you find the coverage you need at the right price. Now, more than ever, you need a partner in the insurance industry that can work with multiple carriers to make sure you have the right coverage at the right price. Lathrop Insurance carries home, auto, and business insurance and can be reached at 401-596-2525. We've been supporting the local community since 1939, and we look forward to working with you.
Experience local excellence with Roofrite Roofing in Charlestown, Rhode Island. With over 40 years of unmatched expertise, Roofrite specializes in architectural shingles and holds the prestigious title of GAF Master Elite Installers. Known for their commitment to the community and support for local initiatives, Roofrite is your trusted partner for all of your home's roofing needs. Call today for a free estimate at 401-212-4140.